Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus3 Futures and Commodities Show, single stock edition. We are recording here on March 5th, Tuesday the 5th, after the close. And today we're going to be covering Microsoft. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner, Barry Hederachi. Barry, how we doing?
Doing pretty good. Doing pretty good.
Looks like another parabolic move that we're going to be analyzing here on
This is our what's that? Single stock Tuesday bid
Single
drop.
Stock Tuesday. Yep.
Okay, and the screen size is okay for you? Can see
Yeah, it
that?
looks good.
Okay. All right.
Looks good.
You guys have been following. We did we did Nvidia and
Tesla last week.
Tesla last week, and our basically we look at it like three different time frames. We look at the monthly, weekly, and the daily. So we start with the monthly and to see, and all we're trying to do is see, where are we and how did we get here? And I'll try to do it a little bit faster than the last ones.
We
just
just
not
get
drag.
into it too much when we start messing with these squares.
Yeah, you put up a chart and we can talk about it for an hour. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So let's go to the very beginning. And if we go back to 94, which is it's kind of where my lowest low is and my data ends. And we end up
Damn,
with,
that gives you 360
yeah.
months.
So we had 360 months. So, for anybody doing Gann, that's like the ultimate number. So, and here we
Wow.
are. And it's something to watch because anytime you get a 360 from a low, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and
And
that's three 10-year cycles essentially.
I mean, it's a big deal, right? I mean, no matter
Mm-hmm.
what, it's a big
Mm-hmm.
deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing here is, I'll show you what's happening here. What's happening here is, sure, 360 there. You see 360 in time. We see 180 over here, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm using a 72-degree square just because, and to save time, I could go through each square and say, well, look at the 45, look at the 60, look at this, look at all that. But just to save time, I kind of wanted to just go to the square that I'd be using normally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Mm-hmm.
to make it easier. And I did that for the other charts. And if you guys want to see kind of how we started, maybe go back and look at the other ones because we kind of take it through the steps a little bit slower, right? The cool thing is we have 360 months. And I mean, the 180 would have been perfect if we had stopped there,
Right?
but we didn't. Now we could stop at the half square, but the other stop is really 216 up above right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so what's the big deal? So what's going on? Let's kind of figure out what's happening with the cycle. So we have 180.
180 up,
Yeah, I'm
360
using,
in time.
yep, I'm using a square of 36, well, 72. And I'm using a 36 just so that we can see a little bit more detail on the monthly. And if you
Yeah.
take the 180, you add another half square, that's 198. So we're kind of squaring out at 198 by 360. And we could easily say, well, that's not quite here and there. But I think in monthly time really matters. And I'll tell you why the 360 really matters. Before we move on, I want to say that this 216 is $436. That's where it's at. And it's still a possibility. We could certainly go up and tap that. So let's keep that in mind. So high we're looking at on this square is 430, well, let's say 37, 437. But what I wanted to start out with, what I mentioned when we were started out with was we're having 360. And what you want to do is not just look for a number to hit. We want to see, well, is there any kind of, is there some kind of a connection? So if you go into the low in 2009, you can see from there, we're doing 180.
Nice.
So
Mm-hmm.
so we did 180 low to low and 180 low to high. Now that has a lot more weight than just having one
A
big old,
single timing price. Yeah.
exactly.
Hey, Barry, put it back on the 94. I want to show you something that's going to freak you out. Now set it to 26, which is a square of 52,
Hmm.
and watch what you get.
So what we do is we get a full square is what we get.
We get a full square and we
Hmm.
get timing in May where I have some timing. Interesting, isn't it?
There it is. Yep. There's your square. And well, I kind of get June, but hey, what's one bar
Yeah,
here
it's
and there,
May.
right?
Yeah.
You get May on that? Okay, I
Yeah,
might be
just
off by
or the
one bar.
setting might be, yeah, you might be off a bar. Yeah, right there.
There we go. Okay.
Should get it for you.
All
So
right.
it's wild in that both of them are giving,
Mm-hmm.
major long-term timing within a couple months.
Yeah, and the 360 is, can't really ignore that, right?
No.
That's just a big number that we want to pay attention to,
Yep.
especially because we got this 180 going here. You
Yeah,
know,
I like that additional confirmation with the
mhm.
2009 low. That's nice.
So what that gives us is really the potential for a high here. And since we have two cycles going into it, all right, great. So we have something. Okay, so far we're kind of connecting dots, so we have potential for something.
Right.
Now I always like to look at, are we, if we're going into some kind of a blow off, I want to really look at what does it look like? What do we have on the last leg? So we're carrying this 36 vibe, and last leg we can get into 18 months up into 180 if we can get up into this area, right around 433, let's say 433 by May. There's your May number.
Hmm.
All right. So that would get us, well, that would give us a nice square on a monthly basis, which is kind of a big deal. And
And
that's what I wanted to say. That's really, like, for me, that's a big setup. We have a couple of cycles lining up with that high,
hmm
and we have very good price. I mean, even here, the price matches really well. And how do I know that? Well, I look at this pullback coming off this low. I look at this pullback. I look at the consolidation here. I look at the run up into 36 month
this
high,
last run, look at the last run
right?
where it
Mm.
started.
And now we're going, now we're running back up. So 36, it seems to be working. It worked up to this high. And, from that high, we're exactly 36 up. So,
Hmm.
and we went 72 down. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of 72 vibe happening with this chart. So we're 18 degrees, 18 months up into a high. So everything ties together. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not blending all different kinds of times. It's all using the square 72, and it all seems to line up. Since we like to see ABCDs sort of putting in highs, I was trying to see, do we have a low that we can work off of to get us a decent ABCD?
Hmm.
And sure enough,
Wow,
we
right
have
into the
that.
full square.
Well, yeah. So the two together, not bad. That's decent. Now, if we get down to the other lows, obviously we have higher targets, and we could certainly get there.
Hmm.
But this one it seems like a reasonable place if you want to try to see a confluence, and we do. We have a 108 from that low, and we have an ABCD finishing it up. So that high is really, it's on a monthly scale, so I can't get it to exactly the dollar, but let's just say 131 coming off of this low, and
Hmm.
coming off of the low back in 94, it was 133. So we're in that ballpark, right? Like 130, give or take a couple of
430,
bucks.
430.
I'm sorry, 430, give or take. I told you I was tired.
Yeah.
So 430, give or take a little bit, basically because it's a monthly chart. So that's what we have on the monthly. What do we have? We have some timing coming up. We have 360 months. We have 180 months from the low in 2009, and we have 18 months coming up from the low in 2002. And that's quite a bit. To me, that's enough to tell me, like, hey, we have to pay attention to high here. It might be done.
Yeah, on a monthly basis, it tells me, man, the next 3 months we are in the window for potential major, major highs.
Yeah, next three bars, next bar would be in May. Like, we have an April bar,
April, May. Yeah.
April, May. May
Yep.
would be the 18th month coming off that low.
Yep.
So yeah, exactly. So we got about 3 months. Now let's go on to the weekly.
That's good stuff, man.
Yeah, that's very good. So that's kind of a frame, right? We have a basic frame,
Hmm.
and I'm going with the square 72, and I moved it to 36 just so we have a little bit more definition.
Yeah.
And looking at the 36, moving it on, we can still kind of see the vibe is pretty good. We're holding them up. This 108 seems to be a key move. And then we stalled under the 144, broke out, and we're holding above. So if you're looking for any kind of a high, this is really the one to bracket on a weekly basis. You want to bracket this box right
Hmm.
there, and that'll tell us if we have a high or low, or whatever we're dealing with. And the reason I'm talking about bracketing is this is sort of how we looked at NVIDIA. Last when we looked at it, we
Hmm.
had all these cycles coming in, and it's like, wow, is that the high? What happens? If it holds, what happens if it doesn't hold? Well, it's really simple now. You have the lower side, 384. If we break down into that area and hold and starts to move higher, then that's the support. And it's not that huge of a break, right? It's not a big break. On the
Mm-hmm.
other side, if we break out of 419 to the upside, then we can certainly go another a little bit more. On this chart basis weekly, coming off the 2018 low, it'll be like 457. So looking at it from that angle, it looks like we have a high. It looks like we squared out, but we want to kind of confirm that just because it's 144 that we're sitting on top of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And if we go to the high in 2021, we're 36 degrees up exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and we stalled right there. And we're a couple of points short of 72, but let's say we got down to 72, so we're 2 down and 1 up. I think it's a good square because his half square held really well, and we
It looks good.
eventually
Yeah.
we came out, broke it to the next. So we're moving in 36s. We did 36 from half to half, very tight consolidation, broke out another 18, to complete the half square. So now it's really, you see how the box is still intact. Here's a lower boundary on this half square is around 385. Upper boundary, like I said, what do we have? 430, about 430 here. Coming off this high, it's around 420 something. So you can see we're kind of framing it, getting the frame fairly tight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I get down to the 2022 low, what happens is I'm still using the square 72. We have a square, 172 by 108. Now, if we can get up here, that would be beautiful. And that's
Mm-hmm.
433
Which
by
fits
the,
with your monthly.
exactly. And that
Mm-hmm.
would be 433 lining up with the end of March, plus or
Mm-hmm.
minus 1 bar.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you get it from this low, it doesn't look like it didn't quite get high enough and it didn't quite get low enough, not quite in time. So that's what I mean. When we looked at the monthly, we saw like, hey, this could happen anytime within the next 3 bars.
Yep.
And next 3 bars, of course, is 90 days. So a lot of things can happen.
Right.
And so we want to, zoom in on the smaller time frames just so we can get some clarity. And doing it from now, we can, I can do this on a number of levels on the weekly, but then the whole show would be like a couple hours just for just for Microsoft. So just to make it faster, we looked at from the last low, the 2018 low, we saw it lining up. We're looking at from the last low, from 2022, it looks like we have a decent square setting up, and you guys know the price. And if we go from the low before the
The
high,
23. Yep.
20, then we're squaring out. The big question is we're squaring out and we're in that square that I drew out. You see that? The
Yeah.
shaded area here.
Yep.
So clearly that's an area we really want to watch. And basis weekly, just like we talked about in the monthly, if we don't break below 383, this is, Microsoft's in really strong shape and could probably go up another square up into 72. But if we break through 383, then the monthly and all these squares that we're seeing probably terminate at the leg. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I would look at it. So you're not front running this thing and ending up, getting scratched up.
Right.
That's how I see it. I think the square levels are absolutely fabulous on this. The 72 is working well, especially here. You can see we went up 36, we stalled, we consolidated very tight, made a higher low and broke out right into the next half square. And you guys can see how this half square idea works on pretty much any square that the market is moving with, and regardless of the time frame. So that's it for the weekly. What I wanted to do was to bring it tighter and tighter, like really squeeze it in,
Mm-hmm.
starting with the monthly and starting further out and bringing it right into the present. And that's sort of the square we look at. We could go a little higher, like I said, 430, 431, 433. That would square out nicely on a couple of different levels. Anything you want to add?
No, no, it looks good.
It's
You're
okay.
triangulating that zone really well.
So that's on two, really important time frames. And now we bring it into the daily. And to make it easy for you guys, I already set the square.
Hmm.
And it's not a random, it's a low in 22, which is the one we used in the weekly.
Right.
And if you look at this, you can see easily we have 360 days coming up end of the month. And 216 up would be right at 432, 433, right in there.
Nice, nice.
Okay. And we have a block here, which is right around 294. And yeah, that's kind of a wide block. I'm at 294, 394. How much leeway do we have? Ideally, running up into 430 by the end of the month would be perfect, because that would give us a chance for a bigger false break, hopefully. And Microsoft does this all the time. So, I mean, we had a nice false break at the low, did a false break here, false break
Hmm.
here. So there, and we did a false break here, but didn't we go down? We didn't go down. And that's what I mean. So it's possible that we run up one more time. So how do we not get trapped in this? And what are we talking about? The way I would frame it now is, yeah, we've had a good run, and we saw in the weekly, a monthly, and even the daily, we're getting very close to a huge cycle expiring. And in this case, 360. And then we want to look at price. So we have 360 by 216 would be ideal, like we talked about. On the lower side, so the bracket is really that 430 to 35 area, and then we have the 394. So what I would do is look at 394, and if we break that and the counter trends can't really get above that, I would say the high is in place.
Yeah,
It
it's
came in
lights
at,
out.
right?
Hmm.
If we somehow keep consolidating, not even touch 393, and somehow manage to hold above, it's still bullish because even at 394, it's in a very bullish position. And we would only want to see the break ideally when the leg expires, the cycle expires.
Hmm.
And we're going to confirm that, like we talked about last week podcast. We want to see it break and come back for a lower high. I mean, the other way is we go up and make a false break and we turn down. Okay, those are the two ways to bracket this thing, and that's coming off of the last major swing low. So this is not some random low; it's coming off of a major low. We got 360, 216. So I think that's something to notice, and it's
Hmm.
respectable. And now we know which levels to watch. Now we know the time frames. The other thing is, what happened. What happened was the lower part of the time frame is 180. So anytime we have 180s and 90s going on, we really wanted to break the 180
Hmm.
to confirm anything. So we have that. It's something to notice. And what else did I want to look at? Let's see here. Well, that's the largest cycle, 360. Then I want to look at the nearest low to see if we come into some kind of a blow off. And sure enough, we have our famous 108 by 108 hitting
Hmm. Hmm.
right there, like now.
Yeah.
So we could say, hey, we do have the 360. We're in the neighborhood. Yeah, it could be off by a couple of bars, but we have this 108 by 108 that got hit perfectly. The interesting thing is, we did sort of low to low, 72, low to low, and then low to high, we did a 36, a 108. So those
Hmm.
kind of cycles that sort of harmonize tend to mean something over time. And we could have a square in place because we're in the basically the zone, and here's the square, and you can see price action was right around it, and it really never took out the 108 level, which was 418.
Hmm.
So that's the deal there. Now what happens if we put, say, the square of 45, which is square of 90? If we do that, you can see how the 90 is really where it's resting. Okay, it's very close to the bracket. I mean, we drew the bracket out at 390, 393, and 90 degrees is 398. I mean, it's a $400 stock, so I think that's okay.
Hmm.
And the high came in very close to the 422. So I think we're definitely in the neighborhood. When you said, wait, we're close, watch
Hmm.
this closely. you're right on. We're right there, and we're just waiting to see, when the thing rolls over or picks up momentum and moves into another cycle. If this expired like it should, like I've checked the 72 and the 45s in some of the past cycles quickly, and they work like the way we are talking about it, where we explain it. So it's very highly possible that, highly probable that this is in place. That's my point anyway. Yeah. Anything you want to add?
Just that the
Oh,
next
also,
couple,
oh,
go ahead.
just real quick. Also, 112. I mean, this is 90 plus 22 and a half. So 112, it just happens to be the square here in time
Hmm.
and price. And 112, when these things hit, it doesn't always have to be 90 by 90 or 180 by 180 or
Right.
360 by 360. 112s hit as well as 67 and a half. So the numbers are okay, and we're just looking for evidence now. All right.
Right.
So, yeah. Go ahead, Ben. You were saying
I was
something.
going to say that the looking at the structure of this, to me, it's like, okay, are we going to end on a false break? Or are we going to end on a lower high? Confirmation come from a false break or confirmation come from a lower high? Because it's late in the game and you can see it in the timing. And that to me, those are the, couple of the possibilities I want to be aware of so that when it happens in real time, right, we can react to it and say, okay, there it is.
Well, for us, it's always, I mean, we look for time to help us know when to pay attention.
Yep.
And then we look for price to tell us when to get in,
Yep.
right? And price and pattern. So what we're talking about today is really, we have timing, you guys. So we're talking about timing. And when is it? Well, we saw the monthly. I mean, it's a
March,
monthly.
April, May, basically.
Yeah, and we're coming in a little early, which is okay. I mean, we could be doing this show in April,
Hmm.
and we'll be 1 month off. We could do it in May, and we could cover it again in May when we get to May. Ideally, that would be the place, but it's the monthly. We could be off by 1 bar. It's okay. And if we are, then we're coming right up into it. So then we look at the weekly, and well, it could be towards the end of the month, which is really between March and April, let's just say, right? Like end of
Hmm.
March is between March and April. So that's within range. That's within the time cycles that we're looking at. And then you get to the daily, well, it could be now, or going up a 1 by 1. It could certainly be this 135 by 135, and that would be, end of March or early, April 2nd is what I have here, but it could certainly be March 29th. So
Yeah.
we're in that zone for sure. So I would watch it, and the way you don't get burned, like we always talk about, is by not trying to front run it and wait for the. So if I drive 1 by 1, I mean, this is basically how it's moving. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see that dotted
Mm.
line?
Yeah, and it looks like it's getting stuck under the 1 by 1 now.
So you see, there's a 1 by 1. And my point is, if we don't square out here where there was, we had that 108, I think, number,
Hmm.
then we have another shot at 135 here. If we bounce up, so we're waiting. We're waiting to see, which way it would move, and now we have the brackets to look at. And the 90 is really important. So that's why this watching to see if, I mean, here it just happens to be 400, but we were looking at this 393 and what was it, go back.
Yeah. 393, 394, something like
Mhm.
that.
Yeah, on a 90,
Hmm.
395 there. I mean, it's in
Hmm.
that range, and you don't want
Right.
to get it down to $1 and then stress out if it doesn't hit it to the tick.
Right.
You
Right.
want to give it a little bit of breathing room
Right.
and work it out that way.
I mean, in looking to what the conclusion that I come to in looking at this, looking at Microsoft, which is one of the leaders, looking at Nvidia a couple weeks ago, which is one of the leaders,
Mhm.
we're not in the prediction business. The thing you have to look at is the odds favor we're closer to something ending than we are to something beginning.
For
Because
sure,
there's
yeah.
people out there saying, "Oh, it's a brand new bull market. This is gonna, everything's going up. You got to get involved." you got to look at what the probabilities say. Is that
Mm-hmm.
possible that we're at the beginning of a new bull market? Absolutely, it's possible because anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at two of the leaders that we're talking about, which is, Nvidia and Microsoft, we're showing you a lot of timing coming in on big time frames, monthly, weekly, dailies, that tell you probabilities favor something's ending more than something's beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I've never heard anybody say there's a new bull market when it's actually a new bull market starting. It's
That's
full
right.
of, when the markets run up and it consolidates and starts another leg,
Yeah,
usually everybody's in fear. Everybody wants to sell it.
true.
Everybody's, there's a lot of
That's
fear.
very,
That's what gets the next leg rolling.
very true.
Here, if they're talking about another bull market coming, well, I think there's probably distribution going on. Just hearing that part, right? Just
Yeah.
sentiment.
From a sentiment standpoint,
Hmm.
sure.
But looking at the work, I would say, long as we're above, I mean, I would say long as we're above the 395 level, all of our numbers are kind of in that range, right? So let's
Yep.
say 395, um,
To 430,
430 is
435.
sort of the
Right.
consolidation. Long as it's in there, there's not much to do. We're kind of stuck in that range, and I wouldn't buy or sell.
Right.
But if we break 395 and do a
Get
counter trend
stuck
and
under.
fail,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
then we could definitely look at the short side, or a new bull market to start would have to break 430, get on
And
top,
sit on top of it.
get on
Yep.
top of it. And I don't know about a new bull market, but at least we can get to 288, which just happens to be right around $500, which is a nice round number
Yep.
markets like to go to. So it's possible we get there, but okay, fine. We're not fighting that. So we can, but in order to do that, it would have to get above 430. That's my take. And that's the block. And we can see how we kind of zoomed in on it from different places, different swings, different time frames. And it all comes down to this one little spot, and that's the bracket. And if we break the bracket to the downside, we know what to do. If we consolidate in the bracket and break to the upside and get on top of 430, 430, then we can look for it to continue the rally. Okay.
Yep. I think that's a good summation. And we know, going through this, we know the timing. We got timing now. We got timing in April. We got timing in May. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
next 3 months is the window. And we got the price brackets now, right? You
Right.
got the
Exactly.
430 on the top and what was it, like 390 on the bottom?
Yeah. 383, 390 right in there.
395 right in there.
395 here. Yep.
Yeah.
On a monthly basis, I think we went down to a little bit lower, but
Yep.
it's not much. It's in the same bracket, so same area.
Now that's great. This is it gives
Mm-hmm.
us good insight into, what's the stocks that are driving the indices right now, which are Nvidia and Microsoft, are two of them for sure. It
Mm-hmm.
gives us good insight as to, what's most probable to happen based on where price goes. And we see that now. I like it.
Thanks.
I hope you guys do. And if you guys like it, as always, please subscribe, send the link to your friends, get them to subscribe. We're trying to get our
Mhm.
subscriber count up. Like the video, comment, ring the bell, share, all
And
those things.
suggest any stocks you guys want us to look at, and
Yeah.
we'll be happy to do that.
I mean, we're trying to pick out market leaders and popular stuff because,
Mm,
selfishly, if we look at the market leaders, it's going to give us insight into the indices. So,
exactly.
as long as you're happy with what we're covering, great. If not, make suggestions and we'll take it under advisement. Good job, Barry. Nice review.
Thanks,
And
Ben.
we'll post this shortly, and then we'll be back at you with the
Hmm.
weekend review on Friday,
Hmm.
and we'll have another stock for next Tuesday. So take care, everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.
Right. Thanks, Ben. See you guys
All
next
right,
week.
bye.
Bye.